Vanakkam, this is Madhusudanan Kalaiselvan, and it gives me immense pleasure to be addressing the Alumni Association of IIT Madras. The topic for today's evening is Sacred Groves of Chennai. Temples and its immediate precincts have always been an area of interest to me, and what better than talking about the sacred groves, temple and the surrounding areas of some of the ancient examples that we see here in Chennai. So the city of Chennai, as it is known for its typical youthful nature, coinciding and coexisting with monuments from the recent past, some of the structures that just speaks the eloquent language of Indo-Saracenic architecture, at the same time marching ahead in the technological track and coming up with information technology buildings and automations on one hand. This fabric, this beautiful fabric, just coexists with ancient temple architecture, sports facilities, entertainment buildings, and more. This ever-growing city of Chennai is a colorful carpet woven with strands from the ancient past, running parallel to everything that is modern and new. So with this buffet of options that Chennai city has got to offer to its inmates, we are handpicking 4 ancient settlements in the city on the seashore and just getting ourselves equipped with a little knowledge about these 4 settlements. So the Chennai city, a part of the Cholamandalam coast. Starting in the north, we have Thiruvattriyur, Thiruvallikeni, or today's Triplicane, Thirumayilai, aka Mylapore, and Thiruvanmiyur. From the north to the south, on the seashore are situated 4 ancient shrines, which are independent settlements all by themselves, that which has been active at least from the 6th, 7th century. During the 6th, 7th century, it was very active, so you can very conveniently assume that it has been a space occupied, populated for several centuries even before that. Arguably, we are going to see about 4 settlements, temple-centric ones, that have been active at least close to 1800 to 2000 years, if not more. Thiruvattriyur, Thiruvallikeni, Thirumayilai, and Thiruvanmiyur, the 4 ancient settlements, which is all a part of today's Chennai urban fabric. Thiruvattriyur, situated in the northern end of Chennai, surrounded by huge industrial buildings, amidst which you have a very chaotic and crammed settlement. Right in the center is the nucleus of this settlement, the temple of Shiva as Adipurishwara, a temple that which has been active since the times of Thevaram authors, that's around the 6th, 7th century. This temple is unique for several aspects of it. To begin with, the deity in the Sanctum Sanctorum is considered to be solidified ant hill, that which is covered and protected with a casing around it, which is only removed 3 days in a year, coinciding with the Kartikeya Deepam day, and it is treated with medicated herbal oil and aromatic oils too. The very name Ottriyur is quite unique again, because it just means a place that which is rented. Shiva has occupied this place as a rentee. And Ottriyuran is, quite surprisingly, the name of Vijayalaya Chola, from whom the imperial Chola dynasty starts. The Velanjeri copper plates identifies him as Ottriyuran. Associated closely with the life history of Sundaramurthy Nayanar and his wife Sankili Nachiyar. He got married to this woman here, and as he broke a promise, he lost his eyesight and starts on a journey as a visually impaired devotee, goes all the way to Kanchipuram to get his vision on his left eye, and then further to Tiruvarur. So quite a significant part of his life he's lived here. The processional deity is also unique. He's identified as Tyagaraja, a very unique form of Shiva with Devi and Subramanya, decorated in a way that only the faces of the deities are seen, and mystic rituals and a unique dance, a very grand and unique dance that he performs. Several inscriptions sprinkled around the temple walls speaks about a very close and strong connect of this temple with Kapalika and Kalamukha sects or branches of Shaivism as late as even the 13th and 14th century. You see a shrine for a unique icon of Shiva as Aghora Dakshinamurti, wrongly labeled as Gaudisa inside the temple. The temple also boasts of some immaculately perfect stone sculptures, two of which includes Kali and Bhairava, both on the south and the northern corridors of the temple respectively. The processional deity is also called as Elutharinadar, the one who's mastered the art of writing, and to add on to it, there is a mandapam from the periods of Kulothunga Chola in this temple identified as Vyakaranadhana Mandapam, that mandapam where grammar was taught. And Panini's association with Tiruvattriyur and gives us a clue that probably it was here that the 51 alphabets of Sanskritam was born. This shrine has been quite a favorite one for several spiritual and religiously inclined devotees, and the list in the recent past includes people like Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, Pattinatthar, Arunagirinathar, and Vallalar, who have come here, stayed, and have sung extensively on the deities, the temple, and the settlement called Tiruvattriyur. Some of the old Tamil songs on this place, compiled as a part of the Thevaram literature, identifies this place to be filled with grooves, to be on the seashore. The sea waves are quite strong and rocking, and the temple is surrounded by green gardens and more. Tiruvattriyur is identified to be emanating radiance, and it is linked with sacrifices and the priests there chanting the Vedas. Tiruvattriyur is on the sea, and it is quite a lengthy seashore that it occupies, sea line that it occupies. It has plying barks. It's here in the town where you have conches which are washed ashore by the waves therein. Conches, oysters makes salankal, a sound, and scrapping of diamond, pearls, gold, and other precious stones here at Uttriyur, where the waves of the surging ocean move about the shore. So a happening port town where expensive goods were exported and imported, and all this business was also quite actively happening as early as the 7th century. Appar, one of the Thevaram authors, when he visited Tiruvattriyur, was taken over by the rough sea there, that he wanted to quickly compare it as a metaphor to the Samsara Sagaram, and comes out with this beautiful composition in Thevaram, Manamenum Thoni Patri, Madiyanum Kolai Undri, Sinamenum Sarakkai Yetri, Sherikadal Odumbodu, Madanenum Parai Taki, Mariumbodu Ariyavonna, Unayunum Unarvai Nalgai, Uttriyur Kove. He addresses the Shiva there in Tiruvattriyur as the king of Uttriyur and requests him that he is holding on to his mind, which is the boat, the intellect, which is like the boatman's pole. With this boat and the pole in hand, he's just loaded the goods, which is his anger. The boat is running in the ocean, which is full of water filled with very strong current. And that's like the attachments that holds on to you. And when he hits on a rock called Cupid, it will be very difficult for me to realize you or remember you when I sink in such a dramatic accident. So bless me to gain the spiritual knowledge by which I can realize you even when I am put to such tests. So here in Tiruvattriyur, the waves, the seashore has inspired Appar to come up with this beautiful metaphor. The next in line is Thiruvallikeni, very popularly called as Triplicane, the temple which is again unique because it houses the shrine of Vishnu as Krishna in his charioteer form. That form with which he marched into the Kurukshetra war field and fought for the Pandavas. So as the charioteer of Arjuna. And he is surrounded by his wife Rukmini, elder brother Balarama, Satyaki, his younger brother, Aniruddha and Pratyumna, his son and grandson too. The town is named after the lily tank right in front of the temple. Inscriptions starting from late Pallava period are seen there, and in the recent conservation, Some of the fragmentary inscription discovered were very neatly displayed in a platform, and it is still there for us to read. The early compositions of Tiruvallikeni sings about Ranganatha, the form of Vishnu, as Anantasai on his Anantasayanam, but in the later times it's Parthasarathi, or the charioteer form of Krishna, that is referred to. There are 5 individual shrines, all 5 that are sanctified by the hymns of the Alvars. The main shrine of Krishna as Parthasarathi, the shrine of Ranganatha, the reclining form of Vishnu, a shrine for Rama, where again he is with all his family members, a shrine for Varadaraja mounted on the Garuda, and a shrine for Narasimha. So 5 individual deities, all 5 sanctified by the hymns of the Nayanmars. The Narasimha here is in a yogic form. He is housed in as Yoga Narasimha, and no wonder, just in case, to ensure that nobody disturbs him when he is meditating, the clappers and the bells have all been removed. The doorbell, the clappers and the doorbells have all been removed. That is to the extent we look in for details when it comes to displaying things in a temple. The processional deity here as Venkata Krishnan has marks on his face, that which according to temple tradition is observed as those marks that were left behind after the Kurukshetra war on the face of Krishna. But metallurgists and icon specialists identify that more as a chemical gradation on the murti. There are very unique festivals celebrated all around the year, and some of the festivals are unique because he takes a long travel from Tiruvallikeni to Ikattangal, and it's a day's journey for him to go and come back to ensure that all his properties, that which were donated to him way back, even before the colonial period, is all safe, and the revenue from there comes in. The festivals of Parthasarathi is special because they were not spared even during emergency scenarios. So the festival was very quietly conducted even during such dire situations. So, and Tiruvallikeni boasts of women who are very, very special. The devout in Triplicane are the women there. There are several legends who are citizens of Chennai who are from Tiruvallikeni. Alvar, way back in the 8th century, calls the women there to be of matchless beauty and knowledge. Tiruvallikeni, which is surrounded by cool and fragrant groves, have cuckoos singing and peacocks dancing, and the bushes around the temple are so thick, the foliage is so thick, that not a ray of sun could ever penetrate inside. Of course, today it's hard to see one completely grown tree there in Tiruvallikeni, but we're talking about the glorious days of Alvars. Thenavar Solai Madama Mayilai Tiruvallikeni. Every time Alvar sings about Tiruvallikeni, he addresses the settlement as a part of Mylapore or Mailai. Tiruvallikeni near the mansion Mailai, which is situated amidst nectar-dripping groves. Alvar, when he came here, the 12th of the Alvar, Tirumangai, when he came here to sing about Tiruvallikeni, also records how the Pallava king, Tennan Thondayarkon, the Thondai Mandala king, who did extensive renovation to the temple, surrounded the temple with high-raised compound walls, built houses around the temple, which could be used by people who were serving the Lord there. And so rare occasions where even the patronage and the patrons of the temple were sung about. So here it is the king from the Pallava dynasty who's sung. So it's been a prosperous city, rich in its planning and architecture as early as the 8th century. The next in line is the ever populated, busy, most sacred and the heritage part of Chennai, which is Mylapore. The settlement, that which is generally addressed as a place filled with everything that's heritage. One of the oldest port towns on the Coromandel coast finds its reference as early as in the records of travelogues of Ptolemy. Parvati worshipped the Lord in the form of a peahen here, and hence the name Mayilai, and for the temple and the place around it. The god is named as Kapalishwara, that aspect of Shiva where he stands holding the skull bowl or the Kapala, Brahma Kapalam in his hands. And also some historians feel that probably this was a Kapalika center of worship and hence the name. This is sung extensively in the Thevaram verses of Jnanasambandar from the 7th century, and later the proximity to seashore is again sung about in the Thirupugal of Arunagirinadar. Jnanasambandar had a very miraculous darshan when he came here to Mylapore. Here in Mylapore lived a devout Shaivite couple called Sivanesa Chettiar and his wife, who groomed their daughter Poombavai as a very religiously inclined girl in order to get married to Jnanasambandar. Unfortunately, she was bitten by a snake and was dead even before Jnanasambandar could make a visit to Mylapore. The parents collected the ashes and the bones, the relics of the girl, and stored it in a pot and kept it to give it over to Jnanasambandar when he comes to Mylapore. Jnanasambandar's visit to Mylapore was a grand procession, and when he came in to be greeted by this religious couple here, the devout couple, they explained the story of their daughter and handed over the pot which had the ashes and bone remains. So Jnanasambandar kept it in front of the deity and composed a set of 11 songs wherein he details out the monthly festivals, one each and every song. He says the grand festival of the month of Thai, the grand festival of the month of the Kartike Deepam festival, or the Arudra Darisanam in the month of Margazhi. So when this city of Mylapore is celebrating every month all these grand processions and festivals, oh my dear Poombavai, you're not here to witness it. Why did you go so early? And when he completed the closing verses, as a miracle there, as a blessing from Kapalishwara, the pot broke and a girl emerged out of it in her full groomed form. So Jnanasambandar declined the request, telling that he is like the foster father for Poombavai, and requested the couple to stay there in Mylapore to conduct the festivals and take care of the temple and the Lord. So the set of 11 songs is an important social documentation too, because at length it speaks about the festivals that were celebrated around a year in Shiva temples as early as the 7th century. He also speaks about the Punnai trees that surrounds Mylapore. Today, I think we have one tree inside the temple, and the temple is believed to have existed right on the seashore, which was demolished during the Portuguese occupation of the seashore. And it is also said that it's where the temple stood once upon a time. The Santom Basilica today stands. And to support the claim, several temple motifs, bronze puja vessels, bells, and fragmentary inscriptions were discovered when places around the Santom Cathedral was dug. So the temple as it is seen today inside Mylapore is only from the 17th and 18th century, much later. Again, as a testimonial to the fact that the temple was demolished and rebuilt, we have fragmentary inscription arranged in an unorganized fashion inside the temple as it is seen today. Grand festivals are celebrated till date. However, though the temple faced such situations, the temple is back to its form as vibrant and active it was during the 7th century, and it is one of the most populated temples. Any day, any week, any month you go, there will be some festival that is happening there at Mylapore. The most important being the annual festival celebrated between mid-March to mid-April, the month of coinciding with the Tamil month of Panguni, and the grand festival of the chariot and Aruvatti Moovar festival and other things are quite popular. Rightly can be described as the cultural hub of Chennai. So Jnanasambandar speaks about the people, the festivals, the settlements, and a lot of other things. He identifies a settlement where people, seafarers in fact, who are also very good at wielding sharp spears are there in Mylapore. Then he speaks about this festival in the month of Masi, which is mid-February to mid-March, when the deity is taken in a procession to the seashores and he's actually given a ritual bath in the sea water. And Sundaramurti Nayanar identifies the seashore of Mylapore to be rich because it's just illuminated by the coral beads that are washed ashore. Thuraikonda Shembavalam Irulagatrum Sodi Tonmayilai. This ancient city of Mylapore, where the coral beads, the red coral beads that are washed ashore by the strong waves, illuminate the seashore. And Jnanasambandar's Thevaram, which elaborates the festival, I've just chosen one song from it, which describes the festival of Thaipusam. which is actually around the corner. Maipoosum Unkan, Madanallar Mamayile, Kaipusu Nitran, Kabalicharam Amarndan, Neipusum One Pudukal, Nerayar Kondadum Taipusam, Kanade, Podio Pumbavai. This festival of Taipusam, which is celebrated by women, they fast and break the fast by preparing a sweet dish wherein white rice is cooked in excess ghee and offered to the god and also consumed, partaken as prasadam. This grand festival of Taipusam, unfortunately, you missed this. You missed being a part of this, and you reached the heavenly abode. Why did you go so early? So that's how it goes. Now, Taipusam actually coincides with should have been in the ancient calendar, the Tamil calendar that was used here. Every month should have been, the beginning of the month, the first day of the month, should have been marked by the full moon day of that month. Because till date, we see the calendar that we follow here in Tamil Nadu goes by the star in which the full moon night of that month falls. For example, the month of Chittirai, it's named as Chittirai because it's Chitra Nakshatram that comes when the full moon of that month comes. They actually come together. In Chitra Paurnami will always be on a Chitra Nakshatram. So is Vaikasi Visakam. And so the names of the month and the Nakshatram goes together. Here in Thai, it is the month of Pushyam or Tishyam, from which Thai is derived. So Taipusam should have been technically the first day of the month of Thai, which should have coincided with the Uttarayanam, the Makara Sankranti, the Pongal festival as we celebrated today. So preparing Pongal on the first day of the month of Thai, which should have initially been coinciding with Taipusam, has been in vogue since the 7th century. That's exactly why these Thevaram verses are important from a historic point of view too. The fourth temple is Thiruvanmiyur, the southernmost part of Chennai city, the temple of Shiva as Marundishwarar or Aushadishwarar. He is identified as Marundishwarar because he's played the role of being a doctor, a Vaidya, who has initiated Agastya into a medical treatise which cures diseases that which cures close to 4,444 diseases. Now, please don't ask me for the list of it. That's what the Puranam says. So, the basic Siddha principles should have been there. And as Agastya gained the knowledge, as Shiva blessed it, it said that it was here that Agastya was handed over a treatise which has cured to 4,444 different diseases. The processional deity here is also called as Tyagaraja. When you can recall the mystic rituals, the decoration part, and the dance and the festivals for Shiva as Tyagaraja, as it is celebrated in Tiruvottriyu, and it is so here in Thiruvanmiyur too. So the temple campus is really very, in a very calm scenario. The goddess is called as Tirupura Sundari, and it was there in the shrine of Tirupura Sundari, Marundishwara once resided. Yes, it was a south-facing temple with Marundishwara, when he was the original lingam, was initially installed in the shrine of Tirupura Sundari. Because most of the Chola period inscriptions, which speaks about the donations made by the later Chola kings, are all still seen in the shrine of Tirupura Sundari, which is architecturally Chola in nature. Next, when you go around the shrine of Tirupura Sundari, on the southern side, the niche has the broken part of Dakshinamurti's icon, which is still there in Tirupura Sundari shrine. Dakshinamurti as such has been removed from there and housed in the newly built shrine of Marundishwara without a tree on top of him. That's because the original tree is here in Tirupura Sundari shrine. Architecturally also, the Shiva shrine there is pretty modern, should have been built in the last one and a half a century, but the deities in the surrounding niches have all been replaced from Devi's shrine here to Shiva's shrine. So a temple that which has seen extensive renovation in the recent past. So the shrine of Tirupura Sundari also has a front mandapam, which is just spectacular. That which is a very typical of Vijayanagara classicism. The roof panels has an elaborate representation of the Mahameru, which is a pyramidal iconic representation of the city of Shripuram, which is the heavenly abode of Devi as Tripura Sundari, seated in the center, surrounded by 9 concentric avaranas, each of it has its own deities enshrined, and the 4 corners of the square pedestal of this pyramid protected by Ganesha, Subramanya, Surya, and Vishnu. So you have all these 4 deities around, and Shiva is right in the center, and Tripura Sundari resides with him. There is also this unique lotus-shaped 16-petaled lotus, which is a part of this grand panel, each of which represents one of the tithis of the waxing and the waning moon, the 16 Tidinitya Devis as they are called. So you have Rajendra period inscriptions right there in the shrine of Devi. Traditional history of the temple identifies close to 8 different water bodies, which also includes the sea shore. The coastline of Thiruvanmiyur is one of the Tirthams for the deity of Thiruvanmiyur. Today we have 4 or 5 of which, where again you have 2 tanks, one outside the temple, one small tank inside the temple. 2 other tanks have been converted into wells, which is there, one of which is there in front of Devi's shrine, and one more inside the temple kitchen. And a tank which was there, which existed once upon a time on the western side of the temple, is where you see the market there, and which was filled and a market was built. So yeah, I mean that's how we take care of our water bodies. However, you know, even we try to add a sanctity tag to ensure that they are not lost. Still, you know, we have such an attitude. So the Reason Conservation discovered several panels from the Vijayanagara period, which are very beautifully arranged inside the temple, exhibited there. When you go there next, when you circumambulate the shrine of Shiva, you might be surprised to notice that there are 2 Chandikeshwaras, one with a small shrine built around him, and the other one, the taller one, who's just kept there. And the taller ones, please say hi to him, because he is one of the oldest murtis seen there in the temple. He is a Chandikeshwara from the later Pallava period. Conveniently predates even the shrine of Shiva and Devi there, and he has been there since the late Pallava period. The Sthala-Puranam is quite interesting, and a more recently authored Sthala-Puranam. And the festival, annual festival, which coincides with the grand festival of Mylapore, again is like very interestingly planned. And there is Marundishwara who comes out every day in the morning and the evening to wash the sins of one of the devatas who had come there to worship him during the annual festival. One day it's Surya, one day it's Chandra, one day it's Indra, Arjuna, Krishna, Rama. So the invitation as such is very interesting. The tabular column, which has the schedule, also has a column which says about who is this god who's going to be blessed by Marundishwara during that day's procession. The dance of Tyagaraja is a feast to watch. It happens around 10 days during the Panguni festival. People of Chennai shouldn't be missing it. In fact, of course, it happens late night, around midnight, around 11 or between 11 to 12. But the East Coast Road on the western side of the temple is blocked, and the deity occupies the main road, and he starts dancing. And it's a very unique dance where the deity put on a pedestal, processional pedestal, is balanced by just one pole right in the center. And the actual pedestal in which the deity sits is also held in hands, and he is made to, he's moved and balanced, that which depicts a yogic dance. So it's a must to witness it if you're from Chennai. It is called as the Ul Nadanam and Veli Nadanam. On few days, the dance happens inside the temple, and on a few days, it happens outside the temple. The seashore and the rough tides of the East Coast here near Thiruvanmiyur has all been referred to in literature, sacred literature, starting from the 7th century. Thiruvanmiyur, where the fish leap in the backwaters, where the strong waves move about, taking from the sea which moves towards the shore, the shining conches and white oysters. It's surrounded by green gardens where honey shakes by the sides of the sea, surrounded by cool and deep backwater in the jungle. I'm only trying to imagine if once upon a time a jungle actually existed around Thiruvanmiyur. You had the backwaters running into the ocean there, and oysters and conches being washed ashore. And the sea of clear waves which rises, the seashore gardens, and the shade of big gardens where the bees hum is all also referred to. And the streets surrounding the temple is described to have been broad enough where the chariots, the temple cars, are pulled during festivals. today, of course, the streets are broad, but I find it tough to even drive my own car. Chediyar Madhavishur Thiruvanmiyur. Madhavi is a creeper, and so that creeper has once upon a time been in abundance here around Thiruvanmiyur. Gnanasambandar, when he comes here again, sea has been his inspiration. He speaks about Thiruvanmiyur, which has posh-looking bungalows, which are really tall, fenced around, and the bungalows are so tall that actually the clouds that floats on sky hits them, and you have people who speak very sweet words. By the way, I'm from Thiruvanmiyur, and God, who is capable of rejoicing in dancing in the dark night when everyone else is asleep, is a resident of Thiruvanmiyur too. So this is also another important aspect from the Thevaram hymns, wherein not just social history, but a very clear description of the landscape, the local architecture, people there, festival celebrated, all of that is combined in such short poems for us to probably repaint the imagery as it used to be in the 7th century. I mean, you can only probably, imagine a part of Chennai having a jungle around it. I mean, Thiruvanmiyur surrounded by a thick jungle, probably the extensions of which is today's IIT campus, I'm not sure. Imagine that extending itself all the way up to Thiruvanmiyur from Velachery Tharamani, and the temple being there amidst such a thick jungle. That's how it has been. So for people who are born and raised in Chennai or been here for some time, can always identify Chennai with everything that is modern. But what makes Chennai, urban fabric of Chennai, very special is the streets that you take, for all you know, might surprise you with a structure which is as old as Thevaram times, say 7th or 6th century. So here in this city reside gods who have existed here for more than 1,500 years, recorded, and the streets here around the temples that you're visiting maybe once a week or once in a blue moon, where the poets, the sacred poets stood once upon a time to have a look at the deity, sung about him, and fell in love with him. So next time when you drive through these temples or you actually get a chance to step in, be informed that you are entering into a space that which has been active for more than 1,500 years. And I would like to conclude speaking about this very special sacred triangle, which is also a part of Chennai's urban scape. We will have to now shift over to the Vijayanagara period, Vijayanagara Nayaka period around the 16th, 17th century, when a great Vedanta scholar, a great Shivadvaiti called Appaya Dikshitar lived. Born and raised in a place called Adayabalam near today's Arani, initiated and turned out to be an intellect in Kanchipuram, later shifted to another ancient part of today's Chennai, what is called as Velachery, that which was initially called as Vedashreni or Velvicheri, place that was populated by Vedic scholars where a lot of yajnas were conducted. There are Chola period temples right there. And Appaya Dikshitar was a proud resident of such a place filled with such pious and devout Vedic scholars. And he was associated with the Dandishwaram Shivan temple, which is a part of today's Velachery. And it is said that every day he used to walk from Velachery to Thiruvanmiyur and Karanishwara temple in Saidapet and back to Velachery. And this triangle had a small Shiva temple in the center also. And for long, this fourth Shiva temple, that which is in the center of the triangle, was not identified. We had to wait till the mids of 20th century, around 1960s, when the IIT Madras campus was constructed and Mahaparivar was brought in, because there was a Shivalingam that was discovered on the banks of a lake, which is also there today, the Velachery lake that gets extended behind the Raj Bhavan and comes into, which once existed in a much larger scale, abutting the IIT campus, housed a small Shivalingam, which was identified by Kanchi Mahaswami as Jalakanteshwara, and he, out of his jnana, identified that Murti to have been the Murti which was also worshipped by Appaya Dikshitar. So you have this sacred triangle which covers Karanishwarar in Saidapet, which is right there, and Dandishwarar in Velachery, Marundishwarar in Thiruvanmiyur, and that completes the triangle. Right in the center is the lake inside near IIT campus, and that is where the Shivalingam was initially discovered. So a temple with that which is today, he's just moved a bit and installed inside IIT Madras campus as Jalakanteshwara. And so this Murti was the centroid of the sacred triangle, that which was traversed by Appaya Dikshitar. Some say it was every day, some say it was on special days. However, he's visited these three temples, and right in the center, the centroid of the triangle is where the Jalakanteshwara temple of IIT Madras is situated. Thanks to the Mahaswami of Kanchi, who identified it and got the temple constructed and consecrated and brought it into everyday worship. The city of Chennai can give you all such surprises. Not sure if there is anybody who did not know about it, because it is quite a popular space inside IIT, and the history of which has been well documented too. So for those who don't know, well, your own neighborhood has a temple which was frequented by someone as great as Appaya Dikshitar. So Chennai can give you such surprises, and so the sanctity of Chennai city, which is from time immemorial, through all these sacred grooves, is to be remembered and celebrated. As a part of this presentation, I've just written this song and to a prayer for Chennai. It goes like this. I've just brought in the names of all the gods of the 4 temples that we just saw. Vedanar Virimbiyurai Utriyur Talamudala Madaral Sirutra Mavalli Keniyudan Yedamundru Ariyadu Ilanguma Tirumagilai Geethamen Kuyilarum Vanmiyur Varai Paravi. The city of Chennai that extends from Tiruvattriyur in the north, which is the most favorite resident of Shiva, Tiruvallikeni, which has these the women of the city who are very beautiful, Tirumagilai, which cleanses you of all the sins, and Tiruvanmiyur, which is surrounded by grooves where you have these cuckoos singing day in and out. So the city that extends itself between all these 4 sacred settlements, let the city live long with love, arts, education, and love and prosperity and affection, and let all of this be bountiful here to this city from the people of Chennai. Let the Lord, who does not see any differences, bless this city with all these good qualities, and let the city live long and prosper. That's my prayer for the city, and thank you for this opportunity. I really liked sharing not so popular aspects of these temples. I should admit that each of these temples are worth an extensive 1 or 2 hour presentation if you really want to understand at length about it. But this is a mere introduction session wherein I've just sprinkled a few snippets that are not so common about these 4 places, that which is very common as such. So once again, I thank you for the opportunity, and wishing you all a very happy, healthy, prosperous, and safe 2021. Thank you.